Hello and welcome back to Movie Health Community, the internet's #1 source of health warnings at the movies. As always, please keep in mind that nothing produced by Movie Health Community is medical advice, nor has any of it been reviewed by any medical professionals. Before we get started today, I want to let you know that this review is going to include some of my own personal experiences with religion, both positive and negative. So if you don't want to hear about that, just check the comments below and I'll leave a timestamp to where the scores and the grade are for this movie. Ordinary Angels is a new movie about a community coming together for a very noble cause under the direction of a very charismatic Hilary Swank. I got to be a security guard at the Sundance Film Festival a few years ago, and while I was standing outside the lounge where I was a guard, I heard someone scream out the name Hilary, and I looked around the corner, and sure enough, Hilary Swank was standing right there, and someone was telling her about a memory they had about having seen her in person before. That is not relevant to this at all. That's just my lame claim to fame with Hilary Swank, is that I witnessed that. Now, before we talk about whether this movie is any good, let's talk about if this movie is safe for photosensitive audiences. The answer is almost all of it is. There is a scene with some mild to moderate flashes of lightning. They don't actually use a strobe effect. They use kind of a fading light to simulate this lightning while we're in a basement. This is preceded immediately by a scene where a man is repairing a roof, and we see some very faint flashes of lightning in the distance. So there is a good warning that that's about to happen. This scene only lasts about a minute. There is another scene where somebody is taking pictures with a camera that does single flashes. These flashes are bright, but they do not happen at a frequency that causes a strobe effect. This is just worth mentioning because it's still bright flashes of light. For flashing lights, we are giving Ordinary Angels a 4 out of 10. Mild to moderate caution about these brief moments that are quite predictable. The cameras get a little handheld and a little bit shaky at times. Nothing too severe, and these scenes don't last very long. And then there are some scenes that take place inside moving vehicles. Very mild camera motion concerns here. In terms of mental health, this movie has a lot of medical drama, all surrounding a child. This child has a terminal illness, and we explore how this child is dealing with that. There is one brief moment that does happen kind of without warning, where this child expels a large amount of blood from their mouth. More than just a sprinkle of coughing blood, but not enough that I would consider it vomiting blood. But yeah, that does happen quite suddenly. Now, is this movie any good? Like I said in the disclaimer, my opinion on this and movies like this is always going to be a little skewed. I grew up as a Mormon, or as the Mormons prefer to be called, officially the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I grew up as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But for the purposes of telling short stories, I'm just going to say Mormon. One of the things that I miss the most about being a Mormon is the automatic sense of community that comes in there. Now, in my growing up years, I was always a bit of an outsider to this community, but I could always depend on this community being there. Like when I moved back home to Florida 6 months ago, if I had still been a Mormon, I could have depended on the local congregation being able to spring up at a moment's notice to help me get everything moved in. And that's not something I had when I actually did move. Growing up Mormon, I grew up with a lot of these faith-promoting movies. Here's a few posters of some examples of the movies I grew up with. Some of them are really good, especially the ones made by Richard Dutcher, who made his movies with a more broad appeal beyond the Mormon audience, but about the Mormon experience. All this to say, having left a very strict religious lifestyle, I'm always skeptical about these movies that seem to have an underlying message about religion and about turning to God in your time of need. And I was worried that this movie would be really heavy-handed with the return to God message. And I was very pleased that that seemed to be a very secondary thing. There are some moments where it's very obvious that that's what they're trying to do. But overall, this movie is more a movie about the power of a community and what a community is capable of when they can come together for a common purpose. And in the case of this movie, they come together to help a stranger in a very beautiful way. And in the sequence where everything is coming together to actually give the practical help, this just turns into a really beautiful story about what the best of humanity is capable of. This would work really well even if it didn't try to push any religious messaging into it. And honestly, the moments where the religious messaging is being pushed are the moments where this movie is at its weakest. Because this movie's primary focus, first and foremost, is that power of community message. Sure, the script may leave a little bit to be desired when it comes to the messaging, especially when it seems to insert these moments about God. There were multiple disciplines of filmmaking I was actually really impressed with this, beyond just a normal movie. Especially when it comes to the editing. Early in the movie, there's a really great transition between two scenes. It's the transition between the first and second scene that introduce us to the first and second main story purposes of this movie. And the edit between these scenes is so subtle, but the transition between them is so perfect. And then later on, during a montage set to music, the montage incorporates the rhythm of the music into the footage, and just little touches of really great editing that really surprised me for a movie like this. Maybe it's just the low bar of these comedies I grew up with, but yeah, that really impressed me. It also impressed me how much money was probably spent to secure the rights to certain songs in this movie, because this uses some quite popular songs. Now, there are some plot lines that are a little rough on this movie, particularly one involving a character coming to terms with their own alcoholism. That seemed to be a little sloppily planned out, but that does not take away from the successful central message of this movie, which is, again, I know I'm a broken record here, it's that power of community. So I am going to give Ordinary Angels a B+. Thank you so much to our readers on Tumblr and Facebook, and as always, an extra special thanks to our patrons over on our Patreon page, whose names are scrolling across the screen like credits right now. Be sure to leave a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when we post new videos, and as always, stay safe at the movies.